Thanks, Neil. The march towards liberty starts now. This is Freedom Watch. All right, the president just defended his indefensible war that he's waging with lives of American servicemen and your money. Tonight, Tea Party greats Ron Paul, Senator Rand Paul, Senator Mike Lee explain just how factually, morally, and constitutionally wrong the president's misguided reasons are for bombing Libya. But the war hawks see Libya as an opportunity for more. Former UN Ambassador John Bolton thinks this war isn't only just, but strategic as well. And retired Army Colonel Douglas Macgregor breaks down the tactical strategy in the president's surreptitious war of choice in Libya. All that in our freedom fighters, Kirsten Powers, Charles Pena. It's a case of strange bedfellows. Libertarians and liberals unite against a powerhouse, warmongering, unconstitutional, trampling commander-in-chief who acts like a king and ignores these principles. That government is best which governs least. The people are entitled to a government that stays within the confines of the Constitution. The Constitution was written to keep the government off the people's backs. Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Senator Lee, John Bolton, Kirsten Powers, Freedom Watch. The revolution continues live now. Tonight on the docket, lies in Libya. Moments ago, the president made what would be humorously a hypocritical argument for why America is waging war in Libya, as in it would be funny if lives weren't at stake. He argued that his mission is humanitarian and not military. The mission of war is to kill, and the president ought to know that. But has he forgotten his own values? When he was a senator, he argued that the president does not have the power to wage war without congressional approval unless the target posed an imminent threat to the United States. And just listen to what his own Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, said when he was asked if Libya is a threat.
Posed an actual or imminent threat to the United States?
No, it was not. It was not a vital national interest to the United States.
So what gives, Mr. President? Why the change of heart? What on earth are we doing over there? America, the president, like his predecessors, whom he criticized when he was a senator, acts like he is a king, who thinks he can break any law he doesn't like, who thinks he can use the country's military to fight wars of choice. The lives of American dollars be damned. President claims he doesn't need Congress to wage war. The Constitution says otherwise. That's why many former military men, like my next guest, have a problem with what we're doing in Libya. He's here next. Where does the president come off thinking he can simply ignore the Constitution? Well, probably from the fact that almost every president before him has ignored the Constitution in some meaningful way. And each time there have been unintended consequences, often disastrous ones as well. Our next guest, who served as the director of joint operations for NATO's Kosovo air campaign in 1999, is no stranger to this pattern of intervention and potentially disastrous consequence. With us now, former Army Colonel Douglas Macgregor. Colonel Macgregor, welcome to Freedom Watch.
Hi, Judge.
Did you hear any military justification, any suggestion that Libya was a threat, even any intimation that the government of Libya is in the national security interests of the United States of America from the president tonight?
No, Judge. I think the president was decidedly vague on those points, and he made an emotional appeal to Americans in the hope that they would sympathize with this intervention to stop bad things from happening. It almost sounded as though it was a recapitulation of the neocon preemptive intervention to stop bad things. And
this, of course, is something that he ran against and railed against when he was a sitting senator and when he was the Democratic nominee running against John McCain. I mean, one wonders if he's even telling the truth, Colonel Macgregor, because by his arguments tonight, we should be in Bahrain, we should be in Syria, we should even be in Saudi Arabia trying to get rid of or bomb or destroy their militaries and their leaders as well.
Well, listen, Judge, look, let's get some facts on the table right up front. First of all, there has been no mass murder of civilians or genocidal acts committed in Libya. That's a lot of nonsense. The people who were being killed over the last few weeks by Gaddafi's troops were the people rebelling against his government, the people in the east of the country. We've intervened now to stop that, and we have unambiguously allied ourselves with the rebels trying to remove Gaddafi and his government. That means that we are co-belligerents in a civil war. This is now a war, and we are participants in it. Congress has not only been ignored, there's been no declaration of war whatsoever. The only people with interest in this, and that does not include the United States, are the French, the Italians, the Spaniards, the Greeks, who don't want more Muslim refugees in their countries, and they want to resume oil deliveries from Libya. That's completely understandable. There are many ways to do that, but intervening in this civil war is probably not the best solution for them either.
Colonel, you were involved in a command position with NATO when, under President Clinton, the United States military intervened in Kosovo. From your experience there, can you answer this for us? Is it reasonable to conclude that we do have troops on the ground, either for search and rescue, to which the president alluded, or in order to point out, to isolate the targets that the guys in the sky are supposed to be destroying?
Well, I don't know, and I'm not sure that anyone does, but I suspect that we already have somebody on the ground because these airstrikes have been ferociously effective. And unless you have someone on the ground to direct them, they usually don't work very well. So I'm sure the British, the French have someone there. We may as well. But you're right. Ultimately, the president has painted himself into a very difficult corner. It's not enough to intervene in the civil war. He wants to remove Gaddafi and his government. Contrary to what he said tonight, he has repeatedly stated that. So has Sarkozy, so has Cameron. Airstrikes are unlikely to achieve that outcome unless we're willing to bomb cities, because that's where Gaddafi's troops are now residing. That means we'll have to kill large numbers of civilians. So inevitably, yes. I think there's a real danger of ground forces being introduced, and I know that the French and the British have already identified forces for that purpose.
Colonel Douglas Macgregor, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Judge.